There we are. Thank you very much. I've just been teaching, so I'm all fired up with rhetoric and with metaphors and bits and pieces. And Michelle Edelweiss says, again, what Prof wants is fantasized into narrative. I don't like Garage either, but I don't invent his demise. Prof, you have a very bad habit of asserting your desires as reality. I think au contraire. I'm simply stating what the reality is. I don't want Mr. Farage's death. That's his demise. But I don't think his political credibility will survive much more than another 5 years. Mr. Farage has spent his life peddling half-truths, and part of the problem is that this idea of being a champion of as a common man, when he's anything but, he's got so much money coming in, it's absurd, railing against the elites and the establishment, but his credibility has a short lifespan because of his populist narrative, because that's the way of populists. Much like the fantasy of Brexit that he championed, is built on oversimplifications, opportunism, and a lack of real solutions. And this is why this simplistic promise. He thrives on sound bites and emotional appeals which resonate in moments of frustration or disillusion, but fail when subjected to real scrutiny, when subjected to reality. Brexit, his flagship achievement, promised sovereignty, control, economic prosperity, but it's delivered trade barriers, economic uncertainty, and diminished global influence. As reality increasingly diverges from his rhetoric, his promises start to unravel. He also, rather like the Lib Dems, he has no accountability. His strength lies in stirring anger, but he rarely provides detailed solutions because he doesn't have to, because he's never going to be in power. For example, his claim that the UK would save £350 million a week by leaving the EU was nothing but a fantasy. It was exposed as misleading. And this pattern, escalating crises but offering no practical solution, erodes one's trust, is genuinely expected. Once people expect tangible results. Populism often thrives on exploiting grievances, but once those grievances are addressed and disproven, its potency disappears. Brexit was Farage's rallying cry, but with the consequences now painfully clear, economic slowdowns, supply chain issues, labour shortages, voters are beginning to question the long-term value of his pomposity, of his politics, of his posturing, like fool's gold. Populist promises shine briefly before losing their lustre, their allure under sustained examination. And his policies are rooted in fixated ideas: anti-EU, anti-immigration, anti-establishment, anti-this. He has so many antis, and these messages resonate during a specific political upheaval, but they're less adaptable to shifting priorities such as climate change, healthcare, technological transformations, and reality. His inability to pivot makes him appear increasingly irrelevant. I would give him 4 years, 5 maybe. But if he hasn't achieved something by that time, he won't. Finally, he's in power. Finally, he's in Parliament. And he's still a voice banging on in the wilderness. His personal contradictions also chip away at his credibility. For example, while campaigning against EU perks and bureaucracy, he happily accepted a generous EU salary as an MP. Similarly, his criticisms of political elites ring hollow as he aligns himself with wealthy donors and media outlets and all these sinecures that he's got. Populism loses its edge when its figureheads are seen as hypocrites. And his base, like Trump's base, was based on discontent with the status quo. But when he is the status quo, what's going to happen to that discontent? As the failures of Brexit become clearer, many voters, including those left behind in left behind areas, are recognising that the promised economic resurgence was a mirage, fading in the mist. With Labour pivoting to address these issues more pragmatically, Farage risks already now, he risks being overshadowed. Why do you think he's running off to Trump? Because he can't find his alliances here in Britain. What's he going to do? Align with Kemi Badenoch? Come on. Even Farage knows better than to stand next to somebody who's barely capable of standing on her own. Farage's band of brothers is a brand of politics like Brexit that offered enticing visions of taking back control. Taking back control. I want to take back control. But increasingly, it's revealed as shallow and unsustainable. I'm not shallow. It's revealed as shallow and unsustainable. Populism by its... I'm not shallow. Populism by its nature, not shallow. Populism by its nature depends on a constant cycle of dissatisfaction and scapegoating. And when its promises start to unravel, it looks cheap, as Brexit does. Its limitations become glaringly obvious. I'm not shallow. In the long run, Farage's credibility... I'm not shallow. Farage's credibility fades into irrelevance. Like the fantasies, the phantoms, the phantasmagorial illusions that he vehemently promised and promoted. Farage is a modern-day Cottingley fairy. It may take 80 years for the truth to finally dawn that this is a fake, but it is a fake. Farage is a fake, and it's only a matter of time before he's found out.